Lama Agri
18 Robin Park.
9655 Eastbound.
Welcome back to Behind the Badge. We're excited to be here again. I'm Lieutenant Julie Powell.
And I'm Captain Blair Hardcastle. And today we have a very special guest joining us, Officer Scott Pierson from the Auburn area, who is widely known as CHP Mary 1, the most senior motor officer in the state of California. Welcome and thank you for joining us, Scott.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So a little over 30 years with the department, 28 on a motor.
Correct.
That's incredible. What's it like being Mary 1 in the state? Did you ever think you would be the most senior motor rider in the state?
Never did. Just means I'm too dumb to quit.
I think it's great. That's got to be like a unique goal for the motors. Those of you that are listening that maybe don't know, the motors call signs, they start with Mary, and Mary 1 in the state is what represents the most senior rider in the state, correct?
Correct.
But let's go back to the beginning. You went to the academy in 1995 and then started in South Los Angeles. What was it like breaking in South LA in the mid-90s?
Well, I chose South LA because at that time I was still young and single, so I didn't have to worry about moving a family. And I looked down the list of choices and I said, where's there a whole bunch of cadets going to go? And I can blend into the herd, and hopefully I just won't be the bottom of the pack. I can fit somewhere in the middle. So it was a good experience. I got to go down there with 10 classmates to South Los Angeles. It was a big office at the time. I believe there were over 100 officers, over 30 motors that were riding down there. I believe 32 bikes. And it was definitely a good learning experience. I was out of my element. I'd never really traveled to LA. I grew up in the Sacramento area, so trying to learn the freeway and roadway systems and the diverse area down there was a little challenging, but I had a really good time.
Yeah, that's very reminiscent. I was a Northern California kid and then go to the academy and like, congratulations, you're going to West LA. I was like, I've seen it on a map. So
I'm from Washington, and so I wasn't familiar with anywhere. But I ended up in Hayward, very similar to you. 8 of my classmates went there, and I had the same kind of mindset. Well, at least I'll know 7 other people, and we can all figure this out together. So that's awesome.
So South LA, you didn't do very much time in a car because you got on the bike so quickly going to motor school in 1997. What made you want to get on the bike?
Down in South LA, again, I said they had a very large motor squad, and it seemed like a lot of the more central officers, the guys that have been there for a while, the more respected officers, a lot of those guys rode on the motor squad, and a lot of my classmates were getting onto motorcycles, and they talked me into giving it a shot.
Had you ridden a lot before you went to motor school?
I had 0 riding experience before I went to motor school. I bought a run-out practice for 6 months and said, hope this works out.
Do you feel like that worked in your benefit in the sense like you didn't have any bad habits, they would say, or?
I think it probably did a little bit because you talk to guys that do the instruction, a lot of guys that are dirt bike riders and have ridden prior. They, 2-finger braking, rear trail braking. They got to break a lot of those bad habits. But I just learned kind of the CHP riding way before I'd picked up any bad habits. So,
when you were practicing, did you have people in the office that were helping you out that are experienced riders?
I had a couple of, I guess you call them mentors, that sort of go out and show me, hey, these are what the patterns look like. This is what you need to do. You need to get to this level of proficiency before you are considered to be sent to motor school. They pretty much wanted you to work a lot on your own time, a lot by yourself, and then they'd come out and check up on you occasionally. And then when you thought you were getting close, the CMTOs would come out and kind of give you the once over and say, okay, yeah, the kid, he can go. We'll let him go. Because they were very proud that they'd had a string of about, I believe it was 10 or 11 riders in a row that had gone successfully first time past, and they don't want to look incompetent by sending somebody who's not able to pass motor school. They're very proud of having that designation of everybody that comes from South LA passes.
Because motor school, the CHP's motor school is extremely difficult. That's something that hasn't changed at all over the years, I think, and very high attrition rate for the program. Did your motor school class lose a lot of people during the time you were there?
We started off with, I believe it was 14 or 15, and I think 12 graduated, but several of the people in my class were prior riders. So that kind of helped our numbers out a little bit. But that was back in the days of the KZ 1000s and before ABS. So still get some pretty wild crashes out on the network with the locking up brakes and sliding off.
So prior riders meaning they had gone to motor school before and had washed out and were coming back?
Yeah, not washed out, but they'd been on a bike. Like my roommate at the Academy for Motor School was a gentleman, Todd Upton. He had been an officer as a rider, and he'd promoted a sergeant, and he was just finding a spot that he could get back on as a motor sergeant. So he has to go. If you're off for more than a year, you have to go back through motor school.
Recertification.
Okay, I get it.
Which has recently changed with Commissioner Dury. He came up and pushed a program for a kind of abbreviated recert if you've already been through motor school and you've been off for a little more than a year, that would take away your certification. You can do a 3-day, and if you pass that successfully, it's a kind of a shortened break-in where before you used to have to go back through the entire 2-week class. Even though you may be a proficient rider, you still have to go through the whole 2-week motor academy to get back on a bike.
Did you have anybody from allied agencies in your motor school class, or was it all CHP?
There were 3 allied agencies. 2 of them washed out and 1 of them passed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Do they still do allied here?
They do. Yeah, I think so.
They allow it. I don't know that there's as many allieds that go through because there's a lot more agencies that kind of run their own motor training programs. But back in the 90s, it seemed to be a fair number of allied agencies that would come.
So I've heard that everyone that goes through motor school gets a nickname. Did you have a nickname?
Somewhere back on the plaque, but that was in 1997, so I forgot.
We should have done our research.
Right?
We should have done our research.
That's okay. Hey, we need to find it out. We'll just insert it in the edit, right? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Oh, okay. So what do you what is so special about CHP's motor culture?
Takes a bit of skill, a bit of practice. Everybody that's on a bike knows the sacrifices you got to make. You got to put a lot of your own time in to get the training to be able to successfully pass motor school. Then it's a pretty extensive break-in process. Kind of just form bonds with other guys on bikes with all the different details. You get to do PSDs and escort details, bicycle races. You get sent to do a lot of events in smaller groups where you get to be familiar with people not just out of your own area, but in adjoining areas and even, different divisions a lot of times.
So pretty strong brotherhood and sisterhood with all the riders statewide then.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you mentioned protective service details. For any of our listeners that aren't familiar with what PSD is, can you kind of explain what your role as a motor is in a protective service?
Yeah, the motor squads, they use motors predominantly as traffic control. We run traffic breaks, shut down ramps, basically clear out the route that the dignitaries are going to be proceeding down. Depends if you're a full presidential detail, we're pretty much locking everything down. It takes 30, 40 motors. They go out ahead. They just create a clear pathway for the motorcade to go down. Some of the less formal details, you just kind of surround the protected package and kind of make a bubble and clear traffic out of the way as you're going down the highway or the roadway, just making sure that the drivers and the secure package get from point A to point B in an efficient manner without having to stop and have the risk of being, something happening to them at an intersection, a stoplight, on-off ramp, such as that.
Have you met a president?
I have.
That's awesome. More than one?
I'm going to date myself a little. Yeah, more than one. But Bill Clinton, George Bush.
Oh, really? Okay, so that's
George Bush II, I should say. I'm not that old.
So yeah, getting to meet presidents working for the Highway Patrol. That's incredible.
Yes, and it seems, I think for us, because we see it and, we've all probably been in cars during a PSD, but for people who maybe aren't familiar, obviously a motorcycle, they're much easier to manipulate and move around, which is why we use them for details like that. They can get in places that cars have a harder, difficult time getting to.
So how long did you end up staying in South LA?
I was there for about 5.5 years.
Okay, and then came home
South Sacramento. Yeah.
South Sacramento, one of the busiest offices in the state. And how long did you work in South Sac?
22 years.
22 years on the bike in one of the busiest offices in the state.
Who is your favorite sergeant?
Well, you're going to get me in trouble here.
Yeah, I might.
Motor sergeant, probably one of the best motor sergeants I've worked with was Gary Hagan. And then I also know a guy who works in this building who was my motor sergeant for a couple of years, Sean Dury. He was a great motor sergeant as well. Probably two of the best I've worked for.
He was our last guest.
Yeah, he's been a guest on the program before. We've met. So 22 years in South Sac. That's awesome. And then how many years have you been up the hill in Auburn now?
Going over just a little over 2 years now.
Why'd you decide to move up the hill?
The captain at the time up there said, if you come, I will get you a bike. And it's 40 miles to South Sac and 13 to Auburn. And I'm getting old and tired. So it sounded like a good deal.
It looks like he lived up to his side of the deal.
He did.
Okay.
When you went, were there any motors in Auburn, or did you help establish the motor program there?
There was 3 bikes up there already, 3 riders.
3 riders, okay. And that's fantastic.
Have you ever had to be an alternate?
When I first transferred to South Sacramento, I was an alternate for a couple of months. And then right after I transferred into South Sacramento, they acquired 3 additional bikes as part of the CLEAR program. And that got me right back on as a permanent from there on out.
I think wasn't that when they established the CLEAR program? It was like they were the units that worked certain hours that would go in during heavy commute, clear the crashes, clear the roadway.
Primary commute, clear 1125, things that are blocking the roadway, get crashes off so that the lanes could be clear and traffic could more efficiently flow.
Appropriate name. So, obviously patrol, the backbone of the highway patrol, something that you did for years and years and years as a motor officer. But you've also done some other specialized things. You've been on our special response team. And what are some of the more memorable deployments you've had in that capacity?
Yeah, I've been on SRT since 2001. It's been on various different iterations, mobile field force, special operations team, but basically the same thing, special response team. In that time, in 2005, we were deployed to Louisiana for Hurricane Katrina. That was a pretty memorable event. I've gotten to deploy to 2 different conventions for presidential nominations. Went to Cleveland, Ohio for the nomination convention there, and then most recently to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the convention there. And probably one of the more recent memorable deployments was up to Paradise for the fires up there. That was a pretty dramatic deployment.
What was it like going to Katrina, going all the way to Louisiana?
First of all, I thought it was a joke when the sergeant called and said, "Are you available for the next 2.5 weeks?" I said, "Sure." And then called back an hour later and said, "Okay, pack your stuff. We're leaving at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning." We drove, met at the academy, piled 4 or 5 deep in Ford Expeditions, and we drove from the academy to Baton Rouge, Louisiana in 2 days, which was an experience. Got there at dark 30 in the morning. They put us up in some military tents on military cots, and we were exhausted. And I remember waking up at about 6:37 in the morning to blinding sun and Black Hawk helicopter blades blowing our tent apart about 50 feet away, landing in the field. But yeah, it was kind of eye-opening just seeing all that kind of devastation firsthand. It was still pretty fresh by the time we got there. They were there probably within less than a week after the actual hurricane had passed through. So there was still flooding and debris and just kind of general chaos everywhere.
I remember I worked in Hayward at the time, and there were several officers from there that got deployed, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! I can't wait to do this." Like thinking it was happened all the time, and it was just going to be like a regular occurrence. But do you know if prior to that it was something that the department did on a regular basis, or was that like the first major out of state deployment?
To my knowledge, I think that was the first time they'd sent that large of a contingency out of state. Probably smaller groups, maybe air support or something, have gone to some other events out of state. But to my knowledge, I think that was the largest out of state deployment to that point.
And what was your role when you got over there? What were you guys doing?
Pretty much anything the state police requested of us, but it was largely kind of search and rescue initially because we had the larger SUV four-wheel drives. We were able to get out to some of the places that they couldn't necessarily access with their patrol cars. They were all in Crown Vics for the most part. I mean, they did have some specialty vehicles, but we had, a couple dozen expeditions that were able to go through some of the water, and then we're riding with National Guard troops in their trucks at certain points when the waters were still too deep to get to in our vehicles, and just basically looking for people who still needed evacuating. And there were people that had decided they were going to try to ride out the hurricane, and then they get to a point where there's just no more resources left. So they're like, okay, yeah, we need to get out. So we're just kind of going around and collecting people like that, getting them out to a safe zone where they could go to a shelter.
It's like memories that you'll, talk about and think about probably throughout your retirement. Those are the things that I feel like the retirees are talking about at coffee.
Yeah.
So a good experience.
And then you've also more recently had the opportunity to go back to Washington, D.C. with our motor squad and escort the Unity Tour and ride into the memorial in D.C. for Police Week. What was that like?
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing experience. That was probably one of the, I'd say, probably highlights of the career, being selected to do that and having the honor to ride with the Unity Tour and then into the memorial actually in Washington, D.C. and attend some of those events there as representing the department is pretty special.
Oh, 30 years. We all have people that we know that we've worked with who unfortunately have their names on that memorial in D.C. having been killed in the line of duty. Is there anyone particularly that you thought of when you were riding in?
I've worked with Lucas Shalou in South Sacramento, and he passed in a motorcycle pursuit. And that was kind of on my mind as we're riding through the memorial. But there are several people that I've known across the career that are also unfortunately on the memorial.
Got to be tough but powerful at the same time. Do you feel like any of the times that you went out of state that anything really kind of changed your perspective or changed you at all? And when you came back, things were any different?
I think probably every time going to the DC trip, it was kind of eye-opening how well recognized our department is. Kind of everywhere we went, people recognized the uniform and the motorcycles, and they were, wanted to come up and talk and meet you. Some of the other deployments, going to the conventions where you're working with multiple allied agencies from other states, you start talking about work conditions, pay, benefit, that kind of thing, and you kind of realize how kind of, not spoiled, but how lucky, fortunate we are to work for the agency that we work for. We're pretty well taken care of.
Awesome. That's great.
I think anytime you're involved and around, other people, first responders, allied agencies, in whether it's a natural disaster or fires, even Police Week, even APEC, which we went to in San Francisco as a department to assist. I always find myself getting re-motivated, re-energized, I guess is probably a better way to put it. But it just gives me an appreciation for my career choice and what we do for, on this department. We have so many opportunities that we are, that are presented. And if you're, part of SRT or a motor, you're afforded a lot of really good opportunities. And I just think it always reinforces for me how lucky and fortunate I am to work for the California Highway Patrol. So.
Yeah, Scott, when you signed up for the California Highway Patrol, did you think, oh, I'll be going to Louisiana and Cleveland and Milwaukee and Washington, D.C.?
Never thought it. Didn't think that would ever be in the plans.
It's amazing. And Julie brings up a good point. It is nice to have those moments that reinforce how lucky we are to serve the people of California, especially with our department. But we've all, in the course of our careers, worked either with people or have felt it ourselves where we start kind of hitting that, maybe a cynical patch or, getting frustrated or things just kind of feel stagnant. Did you ever find yourself getting into that? I mean, 30 years working the beat. Did that ever
I don't know that I've ever really been cynical. There's probably been points where I've been a little disappointed just about the direction that either in office or kind of in general things are going with the department. But I don't know that I've ever been cynical. I've always tried to see, even if I don't necessarily agree 100% with what's going on, there are reasons behind it that I might not know, or try to look for what might be driving the situation in the way that I'm not crazy about. But tried not to ever get down and negative and cynical on the department or anything.
And we always look to our senior officers as role models, especially when you've got new officers. I mean, South LA, you probably constantly had a stream of new officers coming in from the academy, and in South Sacramento, new people transferring in. Did you ever find yourself in a position where, as an informal leader among your peers, you were kind of carrying the torch to, in the rough times, try and keep people from going down that road?
I think I've always just tried to stay relatively positive just among my peers. I don't know that I've never, ever intentionally kind of jumped up in front of the room to give a speech and try to pick everybody up, but I just try to keep a positive attitude and hope that'll affect the people that I'm working around and working with, and encourage people to try to kind of do the same thing, look for the positive and try to realize that there's other factors, even a lot of times outside of our own department, that our management has to, act at the direction of and work with, forces that are bigger than just our office or our department. There's things that are out there that require our department to do things in a particular way.
And I don't want to embarrass you, but you have a reputation for being a really hard worker and a great beat partner. So
that's not embarrassing. That's honorable.
It is honorable, but what keeps you motivated? 30 years in, you still go out every day, you go 10-8, and you handle your beat, you help your beat partners, and people appreciate what you're doing. Like, what keeps you going?
Probably just that's kind of how I grew up. My parents were both really hard workers, and it's kind of how I was raised, is that you go to work and you do a good day's work and a fair day's work, and then help others out when you can.
Simple as that.
I'm going to write that down.
Write that down.
Yeah, right.
Write that down.
Putting that in the
It's
book.
a little hard when it's 105 out there sometimes, but other than that,
No air conditioning on the bike.
No air conditioning on the bike. Heated hand grips, though, right?
it is.
Yeah.
That's a big plus, though. It actually amazingly is. It's a big plus.
It's the small things.
Right.
New helmets, heated hand grips,
Oh yeah, you
a
guys have
3-day recert class. There's all kinds of positive things happening.
We're going to shift gears a little bit into something that I like, my wheelhouse here. The most that we've worked together has been in our roles as DRE instructors, part of the Drug Recognition Expert Program. You've been a drug recognition expert since 2005 and an instructor since 2016. What drew you to the DRE program?
Mostly coworkers. I was, backing way up. My first phase FTO down in South Los Angeles was one of the old school DREs from the beginning of the program. So I was always kind of a little bit fascinated. He always had literature and different things that he was looking at, studying and reading. And so fast forward, I'm working up here in South Sacramento now, and I was working around a sergeant named Vince Lambry, who was very involved in the DRE program, and I was working the DUI task force with Rob Womack, who was also very involved in the DRE program. So they talked me into going to DRE school initially, and going from there, just working in South Sacramento. The area office supported the field certifications, where all the DREs coming out of DRE school have to go and do a set number of evaluations on impaired subjects. And working around that environment, I was asked to be part of the arrest team, where we would basically go out and find the pedestrians, bicyclists, whatever, bring them into the area office so the students could eval them. And after doing that for several years, I was asked to go to instructor school so I could help a little bit more involved in the certification site and work with the instructors that are helping guide the students through their learning process.
years of being on the DUI task force, the RAID task force in Sacramento, and time as a DRE and a DRE instructor. What drew you to this advanced level of impaired driving enforcement?
Getting involved in the RAID task force, just a lot of the guys that I worked with and respected were involved in that, and it was seemed like a good unit to be working with. There was the ability to work in different areas. We were able to travel not just through the Sacramento region. We work in South Sacramento, North Sacramento. We'd go up to Chico. We'd go down to Stockton. We'd go basically to every office around the division. So you got to see different areas of the division, work in different regions. And it just seemed like a good way to make an impact over, particularly it was the holiday periods that they would largely deploy. So there's a little bit of a strain because it basically meant you're committing all your holiday weekends throughout the year to going to these different areas, but it also was kind of felt good to be able to make an impact because you're going out there in large numbers and getting high visibility and a lot of impaired drivers off the roadway.
It is such a good program.
Yeah, it's what it's about. We do make those sacrifices in our careers and give up the holidays and some family time, but it's in service to others, and it's about saving lives.
It is funny how, we were asking how you got involved, and it is usually, right, your peers are recruiting you, and the DRE program is no different. For like younger officers, what would you say to maybe recruit if they're listening to this, or if you could give them any advice as far as getting involved? We're always looking for DREs, and sometimes I think that's a little intimidating because it is lengthy training, and it's a higher level of proficiency. But what would you say to recruit a newer or younger or even a more seasoned officer to the DRE program?
It gives you a sense of confidence, I guess you would say, because you deal with the basic DUI training, alcohol DUI. But there's a lot of times, before being a DRE, you'd stop somebody like something might not just be right here, but, no nystagmus, no alcohol, but, you don't really know where to go with it. So as a DRE, you have that skill that you can pursue that further, not have to rely on somebody else's expertise. And I think it just makes you even more competent and confident just with the basic DUI because you're so ingrained in all the field sobriety testing and the additional eye exams and vitals and all that.
And it's a tough class. It is a tough class. Physiology, science stuff. I mean, it's one of the harder classes that I've done in my career with the Highway Patrol.
Yeah, I agree. It was one of the harder, but I also think it was like one of the most rewarding in the sense that you definitely had a skill set after you left there that made you a resource to not only the area, but also your beat partners and even neighboring areas. If they didn't have so many times there's a major injury crash or some sort of collision that's involved, like you're saying, Scott, an impaired driver, but it's like they can't put their finger on what it is, and they know that they're impaired, they make the arrest, and they're looking for that DRE to come in and do the evaluation. So it is challenging, but I think it's in the long run, it's another tool on your tool belt to be a successful and competent beat partner and officer.
Absolutely. I have to imagine over the last 30 years that you've seen a few changes with the department. What do you think is, when you go back to the first day that you went to South LA, what's gotten better? What are some of the great improvemons you've seen?
The hand grips.
Well, I know the heated hand.
The heated hand grips. The helmet.
Aside from heated hand grips,
ABS brakes on motorcycles. I would say, well, from a motor perspective, we now have the magical motor tablets, so we can run MDC and be almost like a car cop. So we have access.
Almost like a car cop.
So we don't have to talk to dispatch as much. We can run and be a lot more self-sufficient. We have electronic citations that I really enjoy using more than handwritten citations.
That's coming from a guy with 30 years on.
There's
a lot of people.
You can teach you can teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. I'd say some of the technology is definitely improvement, but sometimes makes you kind of pull your hair out when things don't work quite how they're supposed to.
We have no idea what you're talking about.
No, all of our equipment always works 100% of the time.
When I started, I had to use what they call a Thomas guide to find my way.
I did too.
Yes.
I did too.
And now they have GPS, so you don't have to find the grid and number anymore. You can just type it magically in, and it'll take you there.
So on the bike with the Thomas guy, like if you got a call and didn't know where it was, would you have to pull over and dig it out of your saddlebag and look it up on the side of the
Oh my
highway?
God, did that thing even fit in the saddlebag?
Yeah. Find a curb and look it up.
Yeah, times have changed. Times have changed. How about with the motorcycle itself? Those are the ABS and the heated hand grips. Other improvements that you have on? Because what are you riding right now?
Right now, we're riding the BMW's RTP 1250s. It's a very good, probably my favorite bike that we've had since we've been on. I've ridden a lot of different bikes.
There are still a couple people riding a Harley, right?
I've heard rumors.
Okay, I think
There's one or two out there.
Yes. I think there's yeah. Well, I know for sure of one, but were you a Harley guy or are you a BMW guy?
I'm a whatever the state gives me to ride with a gas card kind of guy.
Okay,
but,
got it.
If given a choice and they set either one before me, I'd probably go with the BMW. But
okay, how come?
Just a comfortable ride, better brakes, better suspension, better handling, just all around. I think for freeway riding and what we do, I think it's just a better, safer ride.
We're gonna have to get Danny Margaris on here. He's
Talk
gonna disagree.
about his
He's
Harley.
gonna disagree.
Side note, first phase FTO
Oh, okay.
for old Danny.
All righty.
Oh, there you go.
Danny, we need to get you on here.
Yes.
He'll probably tell you that he taught me everything I know, that I didn't teach him anything.
Guaranteed. Being on two wheels, it exposes you to a lot more than you're exposed to with four wheels. Reflecting back, any close calls that you remember that you think, oh man, I got lucky on that one?
Too many. Funny story. I've been on a bike 28 years. I was in a car for 2, 7 on-duty crashes, 5 in patrol cars, 2 on the bike. So I think the stats are pretty good. But yeah, quite a few close calls over the years.
And
Okay,
a lot of them
5
just
in 2 years.
across. I mean, working raid and other stuff. You're in
okay.
a car,
I just
but
wanted to clarify.
for the most part, my first patrol car crash was first phase of break-in. I was rear-ended in the center divide behind an 1126 that I was waiting for a tow. I still made it off break-in.
Not at fault.
Not
your
at fault.
We do get rear-ended from time to time. It happens. What's your favorite memory of being on the bike?
Probably overall, the opportunity to go to the memorial trip in D.C. is probably one of the highlights, one of the biggest highlights of the career on the motorcycle. But just being able to ride with friends. I made some really good friends over the years, some guys that are even retired that I still keep in touch with over the years, even though they're down the road and even some of them out of state. So just form some pretty tight bonds with guys that you ride with.
And what is your threshold, weather-wise, to get in a car?
I feel like everybody has a threshold.
No?
Rain.
Torrential rain.
Torrential rain. Do snow? Have you ever been on the bike up in Auburn, maybe East End?
There's a little tour called the Amgen Tour of California a few years back where we were sent up to South Lake Tahoe and Truckee. And we rode over Donner Summit in 15 degrees with snow blowing over the roadway, saying, we really hope this works out and we can get back down the hill.
Heated hand grips.
Heated
hand grips.
The weather was so bad they actually canceled the tour and moved it back down the hill to Nevada City. So we were all up there already and we had to creep back over on frozen Donner Summit. So that's probably about the coldest. I think it was the coldest I've ever ridden in. But guys had icicles hanging off the backs of the bikes and everything else. But normally, if it's not raining, I'm riding. So
even in the heat, like hottest day.
I don't say I enjoy it. I don't say I enjoy it, but yeah, I'm riding.
You're riding. Okay.
And I make sure every stop is under an overpass or a tree. So
Stay in the shade. Yeah.
in the shade.
A lot of sunscreen over the course of 30 years.
Definitely.
Yes. Okay. If you could talk to your rookie self, what advice would you give him?
Just stay positive and avoid the negative people and keep pressing on.
Keep pressing on. Can you believe it's almost over?
It's hard to believe.
It is hardly. I can
Seemed
imagine.
like the first 25 years kind of ground by, and then the last few are like, holy cow.
Oh, after you went up to Auburn.
Yeah, kind of like that, yeah. Yeah,
South LA,
They
South
do say
Sac.
that's a retirement office,
Yeah.
or they used to.
Used to.
I don't think anymore, but
Yeah,
it is
South
very
Sac is
busy
kind of
up
like dog years over there in South Sac. It kind of wears you out a little bit.
oh man, when is your official last day?
November 3rd.
November 3rd. Was that like 2 weeks?
Coming up quick.
Coming up quick. Okay, we're doing rapid fire.
Oh yeah, it's time for the
We're doing
time for
rapid fire.
everybody's favorite part of the program.
Favorite part of the program. Okay. Favorite patrol bike you've ever ridden?
The current one that I'm on, the BMW 1250.
Most memorable person you've ever escorted on a PSD?
It's hard to say because there's been some big names. Probably one that sticks out in my mind, obviously the presidential details are done, but had the opportunity to escort the Dalai Lama.
Oh,
Wow.
And
wow.
I guess he doesn't do it very often, but he took the time to go around and shake everybody's hand before he got back on his plane to fly out of town. So that was pretty memorable.
Yeah, I'd say so. Favorite stretch of highway to ride?
Working in Northern California, I would have to say the days and the details that we get sent up to the Tahoe area, riding, 89, 28, and the roads around the lake and up around the Truckee area is probably
Might not the 15-degree day,
Not the-
but
not
on
most
the
on
days.
the other days.
the
yeah.
4th of July time of season.
Uh, on-duty favorite meal spot or favorite on-duty meal?
Whatever I can find. No, I don't know. I'd have to think about that one.
You can't. This is
rapid
rapid
fire.
fire.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We'll have to go throw down the old Chipotle then, I guess,
Okay,
because
yeah.
there's one on every off ramp, and
Right.
they're quick.
Perfect.
They're quick.
Okay. One thing the public doesn't know about motor officers.
We're really not all that mean.
I will agree with that. I can vouch.
It's a facade.
There's a little compassion hidden in there somewhere.
It's a facade. They're all a bunch of softies.
It's the boots.
The boots are intimidating.
Yes.
Boots are intimidating. If you hadn't gone into law enforcement, what do you think your career would have been?
Before I came on the department, I was working construction, and I had gone to school to get into firefighting. So probably one of those two paths. I was in commercial electrical construction. So probably that or firefighting.
What made you go law enforcement instead of firefighting?
They said yes. No, actually, it's interesting. Sorry, I was finishing up my degree at American River College, and I was taking EMT courses, and one of the other students in that class was a civilian employee at the academy, and it was right when they were coming out of a hiring freeze, and she said, you should really grab an application and go through the process, and it's a good department, good career. I'd never even considered law enforcement, had applied for any law enforcement. And I said, well, I'm going to go into firefighting, but it's a civil service test, and all practice is good practice. So I took the test, and they kept saying, come back to the next step. And
Here we are.
Next thing I knew, I was in the academy, and I'm saying, what did I sign up for? Because I didn't know anything about the academy. My background investigator didn't tell me about pickup day or any of those other lovely treats.
So
It's a treat.
Yeah.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
It's not on here, but what are you going to miss the most?
I'd say probably just the people that you work with coming in and having, coffee and just talking and discussing and working over the day's issues and the things that are going on throughout the office or the department or whatever.
Yeah.
Just hanging around people.
Well, you should be very proud of yourself. So congratulations on your upcoming retirement. 30 plus years is quite the feat. This job is demanding. And so hats off to you. It is impressive. And I hope you enjoy this next chapter of your life. I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
yeah, 30 years road patrol. That is That's admirable.
something.
So, Scott, thank you so much for coming down the hill to talk with us today.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Gas traffic.
Multiple units, 83 and Rockland Park.